Hi guys, my name is Jen Calanita and I like to write fractured fairy tales. When I was a kid, my family always really liked watching Disney's Cinderella. But the truth was, whenever the movie ended, my mom noticed I was crying. So one day she asked me why I always cried at the end of the movie. She thought I was really happy for Cinderella, happy that she was getting her happily ever after. But the truth was, I wasn't really focused on Cinderella. I was thinking about the wicked stepmother. I was really worried that she was going off to Fairytale jail. I was worried that if she went to jail that nobody could take care of the wicked stepsisters, and then they'd grow up and definitely become villains as well. So my mom said, well, this is Cinderella's story. If you want to retell the wicked stepmothers, you're going to have to do that on your own. So when I got older and I started writing books and my boys asked me to write a story that had sword fights and villains and dragons and all kinds of magic, I started to think about the wicked stepmother again. And I wondered if she actually turned over a new leaf, apologized to Cinderella, and decided she was now going to be a good person in the fairy tale world, how she would do that. And I started to think maybe she would convince other villains we know from popular fairy tales, like Snow White, the big bad wolf from Little Red Riding Hood, the sea siren from The Little Mermaid, and even Blackbeard the pirate. They could turn over a new leaf as well, and I thought, what would they do with their time? Well, maybe they would teach kids on the path to wickedness how to behave, and they could do that at a fairy tale reform school, which is where the idea for the series Fairy Tale Reform School came from. Now, if you guys have some time on your hand, I'd love for you to try your hand at fracturing fairy tales. It's a lot of fun. Maybe you have a fairy tale you've always loved, but you wished you could change the ending of. Or maybe there's a character in the fairy tale that you felt just didn't get their due. The fun thing about fracturing fairy tales is that the choices are really up to you. I actually have the privilege of fracturing fairy tales for some of the Disney Twisted Tale books as well. So I'll give you an example of a fractured fairy tale. Disney has the movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They let me actually change the story. And the twist on my story was, what if the evil queen poisoned the prince instead of Snow? I decided I would tell the story from the evil queen's point of view and Snow White's point of view, that we'd get to see what the evil queen's life was like when she was a young girl, how she grew up, found the mirror, and how the mirror kind of really affected how she viewed the world. And so it was really fun to get to change the Snow White story I knew from the movie and put a new spin on it while bringing the story back to the original ending. I also got to do Disney's Frozen Twisted Tale book, which is called Conceal Don't Feel. In that, the twist is, what if Anna and Elsa never knew each other? What if the book opened and Elsa was alone in the castle and she didn't have a sister? She didn't even remember having magic. How would that change the story we know in Frozen, and how would we get back to the original ending? So my point is, the possibilities are endless. And for you right now, what I'd love for you guys to do is to get a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen. You can use a journal. You can use anything you want. And I want you to think about some of your favorite fairy tale characters. They can be traditional characters from fairy tales, or they can be characters you've met in Disney movies. I actually did a school visit the other day where a boy said to me, well, when you think about it, Star Wars is actually a fairy tale too. And I said, that's true. It could be like a space fairy tale. So the possibilities are really endless. I have right here my fairy tale box. If I shake this, you can hear there are a lot of fairy tale characters in here. So I'm going to pull out some of these. Maybe it'll inspire you. For example, what if you wrote about Rapunzel's prince? Now, you could also use Flynn Rider from Tangled if you wanted. What if you wrote about the Beast from Beauty and the Beast? How would that change the story? What if we wrote about the wicked stepsisters? Or the fairy godmother from Cinderella? Or Mulan? Maybe you want to write about the gingerbread man, or Goldilocks and the Three Bears, or even Pinocchio. The point is, the possibilities are endless. So what I'm hoping you guys will do is pick a character from your favorite fairy tale, write it down. Then before you start fracturing the fairy tale, one good rule of thumb is know your fairy tale inside and out. When I'm working on fairy tale books, I read everything there is to read on Snow White or Cinderella or even the Seven Dwarfs. Think about the story you know, and then how do you want to change the story? Or if you don't want to change the story, how do you want to add to the story? What happens after the happily ever after? What happens before the story we even know and love? Do you want to write the origin story for a character? Do you want to tell us what their life was like before we met them in a fairy tale or a movie? The choices are up to you. I hope you have fun working on this project. I would love to know what you come up with. Feel free, with your parents' permission, to email me through my website, jencalanitaonline.com, and tell me what you came up with. I will always reply. I look forward to hearing your stories. Have fun.